Do you believe referees have a positive or negative effect on football? Well, today I'm going to be answering that question. I'm Dan Turnbull and this is the final whistle.
A youth soccer game gone wrong. Attacking the referee, slamming him it's caught on camera, and now the
Referees were first described by Richard Mulcaster in 1581. He advocated the use of a judge over the players. The first ever use of a whistle to referee a football match was played at Nottingham Forest in 1878. Referees were first introduced for the purpose of keeping time, but were eventually used to control disciplinary issues. The first time yellow and red cards were used was in the 1970 World Cup in Mexico. The first ever referee society was formed in 1893 in London, but it wasn't until 1904 that the sport took off around the world, which began the formation of FIFA. The English FA joined FIFA in 1906 and then started to introduce new rules to the sport, such as the one in 1912 that stopped goalkeepers from being allowed to handle the ball outside the area. We interviewed two aspiring referees to ask them what they love about being a referee and how referees in football can improve.
Because I enjoy sports, I love football, and physical activity keeps you fit, and you can also help and support others and make the game better for all.
How do you feel referees can improve in general?
How referees can improve? I think referees can improve, obviously, the more experience you get. I think obviously there's better training you can do. You can do your basic training like myself is doing, and then you obviously can go to your Premier League and higher, and I think that's probably how you can improve best.
How would you describe yourself as a referee?
I'd describe myself as, I'm okay. Obviously I've only just started, so I've not had much experience, but I think overall I'm just decent, just your bog standard Sunday League referee.
So firstly, why do you want to be a referee?
I want to get into the game a bit more, see it from a different perspective than just playing.
How do you feel referees can improve?
I think they need to stick to their own judgment a bit more. They seem to take a lot of influence from players, but they're referees, it's their decision what goes.
What have you enjoyed about it so far?
It's been fun, you know, seeing all kids and how they play, how they develop as players. I've done a few games myself and they seem to get better every game, so it's nice to see.
How would you describe yourself?
I'm alright, you know. I do 2 age groups down at my local club and they always ask me to come back, so I must be doing something right, you know. Can't be too bad.
Refereeing has developed immensely over the years, with goal line technology introduced back in 2012, as well as the introduction of VAR, which has impacted the game massively. However, in a positive or negative way is for you to decide. Something that is not spoke about enough is the abuse referees receive and the impact this has on their mental health.
It's in the box! It's in the box! Do you know the rules? He's standing in the box.
Famous referee Mark Clattenburg openly discussed what referees go through. Things such as physically grueling training sessions, regimented diets, hours of travel and working through injuries, with the most difficult thing for referees to overcome being the abuse they receive in grounds and on social media. Even players have been subject to abusing referees, such as when Uruguayan national team players reacted furiously at full time of a World Cup game, confronting the referee and appearing to manhandle an assistant after they failed to award a penalty after coming together. This has led to a lack of up-and-coming referees in the sport, whilst hundreds of grassroots referees have told BBC they fear for their safety when refereeing. According to the Grassroots Post, statistics suggest grassroots referee abuse has reached a crisis point, which is having a devastating impact on officials, including teenage referees who are leaving the game in droves. The stats show that 93.7% of football match officials have been physically or verbally abused during a match. It also highlights that 9 in 10 referees said that they have been verbally abused, with 59.7% experiencing some form of abuse every 2 games. There are now real fears that elite football will be impacted by a shortage of referees in the future. It is estimated that the total number of refs in the country has declined from 33,000 to 23,000 in just 5 years, as well as 293 out of 900 referees who responded to a Radio 5 questionnaire saying they have experienced physical abuse by spectators, players, coaches and staff. Referees aren't perfect, but they don't deserve this level of abuse as we all make mistakes in life. VAR technology was first tested in a football match in 2012. This was during a friendly match between Italy and the Netherlands. The International Football Association Board then approved the use of VAR in 2016, and it was first used in the 2017 FIFA Confederations Cup in Russia. VAR first rose to fame during the 2018 World Cup, which led to many football fans around the world having differing opinions on the technology and if it impacts the sport positively or negatively. It was generally well received, give or take a couple of mistakes. It appeared to be a step in the right direction and a useful tool for referees. When VAR is called upon for a contentious decision, the pace of the game is drastically slowed. The referee is summoned to the VAR stand, takes his time reviewing the footage, then returns to the field to give his verdict. This not only kills the engagement of both the fans in the ground and the TV audience, but it can also affect the momentum of a game. VAR was put in place to give referees a safety net to improve their decision-making. In the heat of a moment, it's very easy to lose composure and make a rash choice. Bad decisions by VAR have hit a high recently, which led to referee Lee Mason leaving his role as a Premier League official after he incorrectly allowed Ivan Toney's equaliser against Arsenal in February, which he apparently forgot to draw the lines that would have found Christian Norgard offside in the build-up. How do you feel VAR can improve? We headed to Sheffield to interview BBC Radio Sheffield presenter Adam Oxley as well as football fan Ashley.
Overall for me, I think I'd prefer technology to be used where it can be. I think there's too much riding on football nowadays to not use technology if it's there. We've seen it employed well in other sports. I think the problem we've got in England at the minute is the way it's been used and implemented hasn't been best, and we've clearly seen a lot of discussion. I think there's a lot of mistrust in it and there's a lot of work to do, but do I think we should get rid of it? No. Do we need to improve how it's used and what it's done? Yes, absolutely. I personally would make more use of the best officials we've got on the pitch. So I wouldn't have officials being sat doing fourth official roles and in VAR booths. That way, like Howard Webb said since he's come back in and taken over, the focus is more on the match official making the decisions, and that he can then, or she or whoever's in the middle, can make the right decisions, and they are then assisted by people. So you just have somebody with knowledge of the rules that does the technology, or somebody by the side of the pitch that can help the referee. At the minute, you've got a lot of focus on the person in the middle, but then you've got another big name who's by the side, and I don't think that helps anything. So for me, that's a big thing at the minute, and just the other thing, being a lot more open in terms of the communication. I'd want to hear referees on the pitch. I want to hear their discussions. I want to hear their processes, and that will make them a bit more human, and maybe we could understand it all. For me, do both of those things, I think the situation would improve.
The process of VAR is good, but the way in which it's used at times is just a shambles. I mean, you see some decisions where penalties are given for little contact, and then you see a lot of contact made in certain situations and a penalty is not given. I think the problem with it is the consistency, but overall the actual technology itself is good. There just needs to be some tweaks with how it's used. The officials on it, I think there just needs to be a consistency with it.
To conclude, fans believe that VAR needs improvements in order for it to have a real positive impact on the sport, but there's no doubt that it has potential if a few minor tweaks were implemented. Having spoke to aspiring referees, we also learn improvements are also needed with the quality of officiating, but fans should learn and appreciate that the people in the middle of the pitch are human and can also make mistakes, however obvious they are. Do you believe referees have the toughest job in football? I've been Dan Turnbull, and this has been The Final Whistle.